Married men of Reddit, what moment with your future wife made you think, "Yup, I'm asking this girl to marry me"? The day she took off work to help me go through a dumpster. I had accidentally thrown my keys in the trash while cleaning out my car. We found them 2 hours later. Things were going really well, and I was saying to myself, if this keeps up, I think next summer I'll pop the question. Then, my mother had a stroke. We were all sitting in the waiting area outside the ICU, because only 2 people were allowed in at a time. It was my now wife's birthday, and a Wednesday, and she didn't hesitate to take the day off to sit with me and my family. I went to visit my father at home, and she came with me. Her Italian instincts kicked it, and she brought a load of groceries and a lasagna with her. My father was a mess at the hospital, and it fell on me and my siblings to speak with the doctors and make plans. I would get home and pour myself some bourbon. She made me dinner, and just sat with me while I silently sobbed. It wasn't about how great we were when things were good, it was about how perfect she was when things were bad. I bought the ring 2 months later. When she said, "You know, if you asked me to marry you, I'd say yes." When she was meeting my parents, she put together an outfit and asked, "What do you think? Does this say, 'Hey parents, look at me, I'm awesome,' or 'I slept with your son on the first date'?" When I first told my father that I was dating someone new, he jokingly asked, "What's her name? What does she do? What's her bra size?" I told her about it, hoping to prepare her for his sense of humor, and she thought it was hilarious. The first time they met, she introduced herself by saying, "Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm in college and I'm a B-cup." My father was horrified, my mother was laughing hysterically, and I was in love. I was 18 and just gotten out of a dental appointment where 2 of my wisdom teeth were pulled out. I was drooling, stains of blood all over my shirt, and it was the summertime. My GF at the time was 16, took what little money she had from her allowance, bought me a box of ice cream and biked 25 minutes just to deliver that box of ice cream and see how I was doing. With blood stains all over, she still gave me that look of love and planted a kiss on me. That was almost 20 years ago, and I still can't imagine having a happier life without her in it. In my first week as licensed as a paramedic, I had a 2-year-old die on me. When I got off work, I drove to my girlfriend's place and told her about my day. I was pretty numb at the time, trying to process this kid's death despite all my efforts. I laid down on her couch, and she just wrapped her arms around me and laid with me for 3 to 4 hours as I tried to process. She didn't push or ask lots of questions, just laid there quietly and held me. I slowly was able to talk my way through it, and then the tears started. She cried with me. I felt the whole world was so dark and ugly, but she was my island of light. Started saving up for a ring that week, and asked her to marry me 6 months later. In September we celebrate our 5-year wedding anniversary. I'm still a paramedic, and she's still my island. It was our first date. It was the last day of classes before Thanksgiving break. She was supposed to drive home after class. It was just a coffee date that stretched out for several hours. It was just comfortable. Conversation flowed. I wasn't worried about saying anything dumb or silly. We were completely ourselves. It culminated in a shy kiss in her car before she left to drive home. Her mom knew why she was late, just by her mood. I went back to my apartment and talked to my roommate. I told him there was something special about this girl. We'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary this summer. This may be a bit unusual, but the way she could toss an insult around. I tend to tease playfully, and she could always toss banter right back. We ended up insulting each other so much that my friend had to assure his girlfriend that we were only kidding and didn't hate each other. It was great. She opened her fridge and I saw she had organized her jelly by the visible light spectrum. After we got married, she confessed that she did that on accident and had no idea what I had been talking about but just rolled with it because she could tell she scored points. I kept her anyway. We were young. I was moving across the country to be with her at the time, and she got our apartment all ready before I got there. Our bathroom was really, really small. She had purchased this blue bathroom rug for the floor. And because the rug was too large, she carefully cut out these notches for the sink stand and the front of the toilet bowl so the carpet would fit perfectly flat. She cut the bathroom rug perfectly. I knew she had to be mine. Getting married next month. She came over 2 weeks into us dating with a Batman costume for my cat. She put my cat in the costume and then chased the cat around the apartment singing, DNYH Bat Cat. There was never a doubt in my mind after that. You've got yourself a good cat, too. Any cat that can stay calm long enough to allow a costume put on them is a keeper. She insisted on cooking me steak on one of our first few dates. It was the best steak I'd ever had. I ended up drunkenly confessing my love soon afterward. For the steaks, of course. Similar story. My dad says that he first proposed to my mom over a plate of lasagna. She had made it from scratch, like handcrafted the noodles from dough and everything. He proposed to her over pasta, and she just rolled her eyes and said, "Ask me again when you're serious." After dinner he asked again and she said yes. I've been married just over a week, so I've been telling this story a lot lately. We were 3 days into a month-long backpacking trip in Southeast Asia. We're staying in a seedy hotel in Bangkok and she gets a bad case of food poisoning. It's coming out of both ends for 24 hours. I, of course, am now designated as her nurse. I'm refilling her water bottle, getting her soup from the restaurant outside, keeping her company, and, most importantly, emptying the trash bin she keeps puking into. After one trip to empty her vomit bucket, I come back into the room and she's asleep. I looked at her and thought to myself, I'm not even bothered by this. I'd do anything for her. This is the woman I'm going to marry. She's a disgusting barf fairy, but she's my disgusting barf fairy. Zero regrets. When I was a young lad, I had bought a pair of swords. Now, for some reason, I still had them. But when my now wife agreed to come over my place, I decided to hide them in a storage closet because why would any grown man have these? So, a while down the line, she was looking for something in said closet when I heard, "What the hell? You have swords? Why are you hiding these?" I was prepared to be mocked mercilessly, when instead she handed me one and then started swinging. It was about that time that I realized I was going to marry her. My dad told me he knew he wanted to marry my mom when the McDonald's opened in Moscow after the USSR crumbled, and she ate 6 Big Macs in a row. I don't even care how cliché it is. I knew the first moment I saw her. It was this super weird feeling of intuition that I'd never felt before, and that never went away. It was like, yep, you're going to marry her someday. In the meantime, you should figure yourself out because you're kind of a giant tool right now. We didn't even date until 5 years later, dated other people, and had our own lives, and during that whole time she was just this little seed waiting patiently in the back of my subconsciousness. Marriage has been at times euphoric, and at times agonizing. Right now it's better than ever. Our second baby will be born next week. It actually happened without much fanfare. We were in bed one night before going to sleep, talking about our relationship and our future. We had already bought a house together and had a dog, and we had talked about marriage in the past, but it wasn't a huge priority for either of us. Talking about how cool it would be to have our wedding be like a reunion with a lot of old friends made it seem really appealing, and we knew that we both would be staying together for pretty much the rest of our lives. She ended up just saying it in the end. "So, do you want to?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess I do. It makes sense," and everything happened from there. Completely and wholly unromantic. Yay for us. We're now coming up on 8 years of marriage with 2 kids. I actually have a picture I took of her the moment I realized it. Nothing in particular happened. We had been dating for a while and went on vacation together. When we arrived at the resort, we were sitting on the veranda having a drink, and it just hit me. This is the girl I am going to marry, so I immediately took her picture. The look on her face is sort of like, "Why are you looking at me like that?" For the most part, it was the fact that the very day we started dating she was staying at my house, not quite living there, just hanging out forever till that turned into living with me. Never thought too much about it till a year later and realized that we have never spent a day away from each other. Married September 2006, and still going strong. Oh, I so get this. We held out for 6 months before we, officially, moved in together. We'll celebrate 22 years of marriage this September. When we were having a conversation, and she kept making me laugh. Her sense of humor is incredible. It also helped when I was taking her out on an early date, and she said, "You're spending too much money on me." She knew money was very tight for me. We were in college. Our 34th anniversary is this Saturday. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.